Hey, Yetta, if I want to jump ship, what do I need to know?
You need to know what the condition of your cabin is.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
So we're excited that we've created for you free access to over 587 Life's Inside Track episodes where we share insider tips. We share how to make house home, how to grow wealth, how to just really make the best of your life. And the great news is you can get access to them from home, from the office, or on the go. And the great news is we forget to tell you to check into our YouTube channel. So there's a new one every few days. And if you want to get them by email, we can even send them to you when they come out. And so the great news is there are some things to consider and explore as we talk about jumping ship, right? Like it's not maybe quite as easy as just deciding whether you want to make the move or not, whether it's a for real thing you ought to be doing. There's a little bit more to it than that. If you want, here's, I guess, the bottom line. If you want to maximize your investment, or you want to maximize the value of the house.
Of course I do. Why would I want to leave money on the table? Oh, but sometimes people don't.
Exactly.
So here's the question. I think what you're saying is, the condition of my ship, the condition of my cabin is a factor in me jumping ship. What do I need to do to my cabin first?
Right.
And maybe they don't want to do anything. Maybe you're like
done.
You're done. You're exhausted. You got no funds. You've got no energy. You got no emotional bandwidth to do anything to the house. Well, then we'll price it to sell it in the condition it's in, right?
Right. And if you want to maximize, that's why I said, like, it really is a consideration. Like, first get clear. What are your objectives? Like in this whole conversation of getting a new cabin, and we understand it's not cabin size necessarily, but getting a new place to call home, there are some things you must decide. And one is, what do you want from the shift? Not only what do you want in terms of the house and the price and the location and all of that, also, what are you willing to do to get there? And is maximizing your return on investment essential? Is it one of your priorities? If not, we have sold many homes where the biggest priority is just do it fast. We don't have time. We don't have energy. We don't have capacity. It doesn't matter to us. We just need to get the most we can get given the current condition.
Right. And one of my favorite things is to go into a home and people say, well, what should I do to maximize my return? And then quite often there's simple things to do, not too expensive, sometimes a little bit labor intensive, but things that can be done to increase the value of the property significantly without a huge expense. Like we're not talking like tear out the kitchen, put a new kitchen in, put new flooring in everywhere. Although sometimes it is, the flooring's done.
Well,
you know,
and that conversation is not a general conversation. I mean, we can give you some general guidelines, but a lot of these conversations are very specific to your home. Because if you've done no improvements in your home other than maintain it and take great care of it, and it looks like a beautiful 1972 bungalow still, and we come into a lot of those where it's in pristine condition, just in a style that isn't today's style. Well, do nothing. There's no point in replacing the kitchen. There's no point in replacing the bathrooms. There's no point in replacing floors. There's no point in doing those things because it's functional. And as soon as you do one, you don't get the full return on it because they notice what isn't done. Versus if you've already done everything and the only thing left undone is your kitchen, maybe it makes sense to finish that because you're not going to get the full value of the finished package without doing the last piece.
Yes.
So it is a subjective conversation depending on where you are, what price range you're in, what you've already done, what's expected in a given price range or in a given area from the buyers, what's happening in the current market. Oof, too many questions.
Well, they're not too many questions. They need to be individually answered during a consultation. And the beauty is, like, you know, I think of apples. You know why I'm thinking of apples?
I do, actually.
You do? Because we pick apples with our clients, and our clients that have purchased through us or refer us, and we invite them to the apple orchard. And when you pick an apple at the apple orchard, it's usually dusty. It's got because it's not perfect, right? It hasn't been polished and waxed. And like when you go to the grocery store and you see these apples there, they're looking perfect. They're shiny because they've been washed and polished and waxed. And unfortunately, sometimes that wax is just covering up the pesticides that are underneath. But the point is, if you go, the grocery store knows that if they have apples sitting there that are like right off the tree and dusty, and then they have these polished apples, guess which ones sell?
Well, always. And they'll sell for more money is the polished one. Unless you're going for organic, and then it's a totally different conversation, right? Like it depends on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so even when we come to houses, sometimes people are looking for the original house, the original character of it, so that they can do what they want to do with it rather than you do what you did, although you won't sell it for quite as much because you didn't spend as much on it.
Yeah. And even if it's dated or original, people are still looking for clean. They want the bathrooms and the kitchen to sparkle as best they possibly can. I remember we sold our little townhouse in Elmer. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, I remember.
But it had those stick-on tiles. And they were kind of scratched and worn and whatever. And before we put it on the market, we put a nice fresh coat of wax on that baby. And it looked like a brand new floor. And what did it take us? A $5 bottle of liquid wax and a couple hours to mop it and clean it really well and then put the polish on once or twice. And it just showed like $1 million.
Well, and in fact, that was one of the things the people that bought it said they loved about the house was the beautiful shiny floors. And so don't underestimate the value of the littlest things, because it's the littlest things often that puts that final shine, like getting the black. So here's a real little that really frustrates buyers. But often when we live in the house, we don't see it, especially after winter. When you've had screens on your windows still, there's a little black layer behind the screen between the window and the screen. And that's a little bit of mold. That's a little bit of dust. That's a little bit of dirt. That's a buildup. That makes your windows look like they don't work okay.
They're tired.
They're finished.
Leaky.
Yeah, they're leaky, but it may not be any of that. So yank out those screens, clean behind it.
Vacuum the screens before you put them back in.
Or wash them, right? So make it look sparkly again, because as you make it sparkle, you get value. Well, it's crazy that little things like that are the difference makers.
And then when you're looking at your new cabin, usually what we do is for buyers, we're going to figure out what their 3 must-haves and maybe 3 nice-to-haves. Yeah. And then that gives us our mandate to go look for those properties, right? But the one unnegotiable, the one thing that we can't negotiate on is what?
You tell me.
Price.
We can negotiate price sometimes.
But we can't negotiate their budget. So if they can only afford $600,000, then we can't sell them a $700,000 home.
Don't want to do that
because you can't buy it. You can't buy it, right? So price is non-negotiable. And when I say price, the budget is non-negotiable. Then you may have to give up one of your 3 musts, like the location or the condition or the size of the home. Right? Yeah. One of those you may have to give up so you make it into your budget.
Exactly. So the bottom line is I have, and I suspect you may be like me, have simple tastes. And simple tastes really in my world is just, I love the best. Simply the best.
Yeah. Thanks for growing alongside of us, because we're passionate about all of us being positioned for generational legacy.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward